Before we begin today, there are a couple of announcements. Today is April 30th. Tomorrow is May 1st. And our software on sadhusangaonline.com works in a monthly format. So for those who want to continue studying, you must go on to the site and enroll in the May month of course materials if you want to be able to access the online course materials and receive the updates via the email. So if you want to enroll in the course, please remember to go into the May section and just click the enroll me button when you try to go in there. Secondly, due to obligations later in the month, we won't be conducting these Zoom meetings the last 2 weeks in May. So there'll only be two for lessons 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But the rest of the course materials will be posted just as they always are. And finally, Samapriya this week had quite a health crisis, and she's resting now, so she won't be moderating the way she generally does, but our god sister Nanda has kindly agreed to help. So now we'll go into the texts and cover those points. Also today is the appearance day of Gadadhar Pandit, one of the Panchatattva. He's actually Srimati Radharani and Lalita joined together in Krishna Lila. And every day he would sit, this is him, he would sit with the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda, Advaita, Haridas Thakur, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Lord Chaitanya and his associates, and he would speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's very appropriate for us, or in this Srimad Bhagavatam online study, to appreciate that he taught how to do this by his personal example, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught by his personal example how to hear Srimad Bhagavatam daily, regularly. So we're on the final lessons of April, number 7 and 8. You may remember that in chapter 13, which is entitled The Appearance of Lord Varaha, Maitreya was narrating how after the manifestation of Manu and his wife Sadarupa, they were populating the universe. And then he switched to a discussion between Manu and Lord Brahma, where Lord Brahma was instructing him to do this populating of the universe and creating good progeny. And Manu asked him, what should I do about this planet that's fallen into the Garbhodaka ocean? And while they were contemplating and discussing what to do, the little boar appeared out of Lord Brahma's nostril and then became huge and dived into the water, basic overview, saved the earth, placed it back where it belonged, and now we'll begin with the prayers that the different sages and demigods from the upper planets offered to Lord Varaha after he had performed this pastime. So we're in Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 13, texts 33 and 34. Then the Lord, playing like an elephant, suspended the earth on the edge of his curved tusks. He assumed a bluish complexion, like that of a tamal tree. And thus the sages headed by Brahma could understand him to be the supreme personality of Godhead and offered respectful obeisances unto the Lord. All the sages uttered with great respect, O unconquerable enjoyer of all sacrifices, all glories, and all victories unto you. You are moving in your form of the personified Vedas, and in the hair holes of your body, the oceans are submerged. For certain reasons, to uplift the earth, you have now assumed the form of a boar. So Nanda, you want to take over now and pick people to read? We'll start with this purport.
Okay, Jayashri, you want to be the first one to read today, please?
Sure. Purport. The Lord can assume any form he likes, and in all circumstances, he is the cause of all causes. Since his form is transcendental, he is always the supreme personality of Godhead, as he is in the causal ocean in the form of Mahavishnu. Innumerable universes generate from the holes of his bodily hairs, and thus his transcendental body is the Vedas personified. He is the enjoyer of all sacrifices, and he is the unconquerable supreme personality of Godhead. He is never to be misunderstood to be other than the Supreme Lord because of his assuming the form of a boar to lift the earth. That is the clear understanding of sages and great personalities like Brahma and other residents of the higher planetary systems.
Thanks. Do you have any things that struck you about that give you astonishment or remembrance or thoughts about Krishna?
In the form of a boar, he can do anything he wants. So if he needs to be a boar, lift up the earth, he does it.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it's easy to say, yes, God is great, God is all powerful, but the Srimad Bhagavatam is pointing out very specifically, this is how God is great. This is how he's all powerful. Yeah. Any other comments?
Yeah.
Okay, we can go on.
No.
Okay. Anyone else?
No.
Okay. Sesha Prabhu, are you up for reading today?
Yes,
Okay, great.
Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 13th chapter, text 35 and 36. O Lord, your form is worshipable by performance of sacrifice, but souls who are simply miscreants are unable to see it. All the Vedic hymns, Gayatri and others, are in the touch of your skin. In your bodily hairs is the kusa grass. In your eyes is the clarified butter, and in your 4 legs are the 4 kinds of fruitive activities. O Lord, your tongue is the plate of sacrifice, your nostril is another plate of sacrifice, and in your belly is the eating plate of sacrifice, and another plate of sacrifice is the holes of your ears. In your mouth is the Brahma plate of sacrifice. Your throat is the plate of sacrifice known as Soma, and whatever you chew is known as Agnihotra. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. One cannot achieve the results of sacrifice unless one observes the strict regulations. In this age, there is practically no facility for performing sacrifices in strict discipline. Therefore, in this age of Kali, there is a stricture regarding such sacrifices. It is explicitly directed that one should perform Sankirtan Yoga and nothing more. The incarnation of the Supreme Lord is Yogeshwara, and unless one has respect for the incarnation of the Lord, he cannot perfectly perform sacrifice. In other words, taking shelter of the Lord and rendering service unto him is the factual performance of all sacrifices, as explained herein.
Thank you very kindly. Would you like to make some comments to help us understand that a little better?
Well, I don't know that I can explain it to understand it better. And even in the Prabhupada in the purport seems to indicate that, how the Lord is the Lord of all sacrifices as described in this verse is beyond us Kali Yuga residents, or my being a Kali Yuga resident, Therefore, he very clearly points out the way, the correct path, by saying Sankirtan Yajna is the only way to perform yajna in this age. I mean, in the previous verse, we had trouble understanding the Lord as a bore. There was like, what does that mean? But now in this verse, we're hearing description of the plates of sacrifice and how the various parts of the Lord's body are those plates of sacrifice. How are we to understand that? So the Sankirtan Yajna is our savior in this age of Kali. That's all I can say.
I think that says it quite succinctly, sums it up. That's why Srila Prabhupada, he takes, as you've well noticed for sure, all of you have noticed, any opportunity he takes, any opportunity he can get, he'll take to stress the importance of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, no matter what the subject is. Do Maharaj Prabhupada have clarification?
As Sesha was speaking and reading that, I was thinking that one of the core foundational concepts from Bhagavad Gita is Bhoktaram Jagnatapasam, that Krishna says, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices and tapasya. Everyone's performing some activity in this universe, everybody, no matter who they are. And especially human beings are very fruitive in their activities. And what's being described by these higher beings in the higher planets is that the Lord is the enjoyer of all the sacrifices. When we perform different sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas, that's all those different plates and different features of his body and how he accepts those offerings. But in this age, that can't be done. So Sankirtan is actually the proper method or only method by which one can offer sacrifice, but it's meant ultimately for his pleasure, not for our pleasure.
It's very, very nice tie of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Maharaj Prabhu. Very nice realization. Thank you.
I think it was the tone in which you read it that brought that out.
The association is so important. It always, we thrive off of each other's association. I have a question, if I may put it forward, and if you don't think it appropriate, we can pass it over. But what came to me when I read it, probably because I'm a fault finder par excellence, is we do many sacrifices in the temples these days. Can you just help me put it all in perspective so that any thoughts on that? How to,
Sesha, you want to answer that as an administrator in this movement?
Well, I think that any gathering of anything attractive, an attractive spiritual event tends to draw devotees. But as we know, no sacrifice, no performance, no anything is incomplete unless Sankirtan Yajna is there. So I think we need to start asking that question and worrying that Nanda brings up if the chanting of the holy name is not there. If it's there, then it's complete.
I think also one of the elements that may have been at the seed level for the entire society was that when he initiated people, Srila Prabhupada performed the fire sacrifice. When he installed deities, he performed the abhisheks and different paraphernalia and things like that, but always focused as always, like Sesha said, he always emphasized that the chanting had to be there, but those Vedic sacrifices and activities are also purifying, even though they might not be as efficacious as they may have been in past ages.
Okay, thank you. Chaitamai, you have a question or comment, and then Gopapatni, and then I think we should move on, but first those two.
Thank you, Nanda. I'm reading these verses and thinking how amazing the description is of the different parts of the body corresponding to sacrifices. And to me, it's just one more description of the Virat Rupa.
Mm.
We've read so many, and here's just one more, and that telling me there's many different ways to see the form of the Lord. I mean, this is so extraordinary. In your 4 legs of the 4 kinds of fruitive activities,
Yeah.
the whole discussion right there. It's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Very nice. Gopapatni, you have something, a question or comment?
Yes, I just wanted to say that at the installation of Krishna and Balaram, we had these, major sacrifices, going on. We had like 3 or 4, I can't remember exactly, circles of Brahmins chanting, different mantras. And the head Pujari who came to install the deities, I can't remember the Prabhu's name, but he said, yeah. But anyway, he said, that everybody, chanting these mantras in the circles are important. He said, but you people in the audience, you devotees in the audience, what's more important is that you be chanting Hare Krishna.
Huh.
Because that's the most important mantra to be chanted while these deities are being installed. So I just wanted to add that.
Thanks for sharing that. And that reminded us of Krishna and Balaram in Vrindavan's installation, where Prabhupada said that similar
Right.
theme also. Thank you. Shall we go on?
Yes.
Okay. Next is Vaishnavi. Are you available?
Yes, okay.
Very good. Very good.
Moreover, O Lord, Gopal. What? Moreover, O Lord,
Gopal. Oh Lord Gopal.
the repetition of your appearance is the desire for all kinds of initiation. Your neck is the place for 3 desires, and your tusks are the result of initiation and the end of all desires. Your tongue is the prayer activities of initiation. Your head is the fire without sacrifice, as well as the fire of worship. And your living forces are the aggregate of all the desires. O Lord, your semen is the sacrifice called Soma Yajna. Your growth is the ritualistic performances of the morning. Your skin and touch sensations are the 7 elements of the Agni Shtoma sacrifice. Your bodily joints are symbols of various other sacrifices performed in 12 days. Therefore, you are the object of all sacrifices called Soma and Asoma, and you are bound by yajnas only.
Comments? Do we have a purport coming up to this, or just those verses?
No, there was no purport.
Okay. All right. Then we'll go on with your permission. Chaitamayi, you're next. And I have a personal question. I would like people like Chaitamayi and people that I don't know, I would like you to tell us where you're reading from. Where are you?
Nanda, we were together in Florida probably 15 years ago, and you ran an excellent workshop. Maybe it was Florida, maybe it was West Virginia. It was the workshop was on the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, all the symbols.
Yeah.
I still have that book, and I think about it a lot, and I really appreciate the time that you put into it.
Where are you, Chaitya?
I'm in Talent, Oregon.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay.
And you're all welcome to come visit whenever you're on the West Coast.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank
And
you.
here's your verse.
Srimad Bhagavatam 3:13-39. O Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead and are worshipable by universal prayers, Vedic hymns, and sacrificial ingredients. We offer our obeisances unto you. You can be realized by the pure mind, freed from all visible and invisible material contamination. We offer our respectful obeisances to you as the Supreme Spiritual Master of knowledge. in devotional service. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The qualification of bhakti, or devotional service to the Lord, is that the devotee should be free from all material contaminations and diseases. This freedom is called vairagya.
I think that's
Or-
desires.
This freedom is called desires, sorry. Material contaminations and desires. This freedom is called vairagya, or renouncement of material desires. One who engages in devotional service to the Lord, according to regulative principles, is automatically freed from material desires. And in that pure state of mind, one can realize the personality of Godhead. The personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, instructs the devotee regarding pure devotional service so that he may ultimately achieve the association of the Lord. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10:10. To one who constantly engages in the devotional service of the Lord with faith and love, the Lord certainly gives the intelligence to achieve him at the ultimate end.
Thank you, dear. And would you like to add some realizations or comments?
Okay, what jumps to me is that we need purification in order to make this exchange happen. It's not automatic. We're not entitled to it. We have to do our part and hold on to the rope of sadhana to have that conversation going. And
Nice.
it's taking a long time for me personally, but the results are coming in, and it's certainly worth it.
Jai, thank you. Just one comment. It seems like it's taking a long time, but in comparison to the time that we've been in the material world, it's going quite quickly. So we have to remember the both ends of that time frame. Dhruva Prabhu, would you like to add or direct or whatever?
No, that was perfect. Thank you very much.
Jai.
The need for purification and the result of purification.
Okay, thank you. Tisha, you're up next for reading.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:13-40.
Oh, wait, I have a question. Sorry. Where are you located at? Sorry.
Well, I'm near Pensacola. I'm here in Florida,
Okay, thank you.
5 hours away from you.
Okay, thanks. Sorry. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. O lifter of the earth with its mountains, which you have lifted with your tusks, is situated as beautifully as a lotus flower with leaves sustained by an infuriated elephant just coming out of the water. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The fortune of the earth planet is praised because of its being specifically sustained by the Lord. Its beauty is appreciated and compared to that of a lotus flower situated on the trunk of an elephant. As a lotus flower with leaves is very beautifully situated, so the world with its many beautiful mountains appeared on the tusks of the Lord Boar.
Wow. Thank you. And that's such a beautiful picture there of Lord Boar. And it's funny. I mean, how many years ago would we have looked at that picture and thought, huh? And now after years in devotional service, we think, what a beautiful picture of Lord Boar with the earth on his tusk there. Do you have anything you'd like to comment on? Anything that struck you, Tisha?
No, I just have always thought, just reading these parts where I didn't quite understand or make sense of it, just really helps develop. Like the more you associate or talk about something or learn different aspects of something, it helps you develop love and your imagination about what it must have been like in this whole divine play. It helps develop love and association. And so,
Right. Thank you.
even if I don't understand it, I'm still like in it, you know?
And you're not the only one that doesn't understand it. We don't understand it, or some of us understand it maybe a little bit more, but we can appreciate the glorious potency of the Lord is beyond our conception, obviously, and he's demonstrating how. Thank you. Madurya Leela, would you like to be the next reader?
Sure.
And you have to tell
And
us.
I'm in Toronto
Okay, thank
right
you.
now.
Thank you. Just to show the scope. Isn't that amazing? Srila Prabhupada's potency all around the world. He's gathering us all up. Okay, just like the earth. Okay.
Yeah. Physically in Toronto, mentally in Vrindavan.
Hare Krishna, that's for sure.
Srimad Bhagavatam 3.13.41. O Lord, as the peaks of great mountains become beautiful when decorated with clouds, your transcendental body has become beautiful because of your lifting the earth on the edge of your tusks. Purport. The word Vibhramaha is significant. Vibhramaha means illusion as well as beauty. When a cloud rests on the peak of a great mountain, it appears to be sustained by the mountain, and at the same time, it looks very beautiful. Similarly, the Lord has no need to sustain the earth on his tusks, but when he does so, the world becomes beautiful, just as the Lord becomes more beautiful because of his pure devotees on the earth. Although the Lord is the transcendental personification of the Vedic hymns, he has become more beautiful because of his appearance to sustain the earth.
Thanks. And you have some, because it's a little different aspect that Prabhupada talks about here. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, wherever the Lord is associated, whatever he's associated with he becomes more beautiful, and they become whatever he's holding becomes beautiful as well, just because of the association. Just like when they talk about garlands or ornaments on the deities, actually they become more beautiful from being associated with the Lord.
That's a really good example. It's so totally true. Chaitanya, you have a comment or?
Yeah, just quick. I wanted to express my appreciation for the photo.
Yeah, was a gorgeous one, wasn't it? Yeah.
Unbelievable. So that's just a spark of what Krishna is. That's wow. Amazing. Thank you.
Dhruva Prabhu, you have any comments or?
No, I'm just someone who's in love with someone else sees that person differently than someone who either isn't in love with them or doesn't even know them. And these beings from higher planets, demigods, are devotees. And there's so much appreciating this. I mean, they're witnessing it, seeing it personally right in front of their eyes, and they're coming up with these very poetic, beautiful similes and examples. It's wonderful to hear from them.
Jai, thank you. Gopapatni, you're up next for reading, and then Mantara. That first Gopapatni. And I'll tell you that Gopapatni's in Alachua, Florida also.
No, I'm not.
No, where are you?
I'm in Gainesville.
Oh, so far away. I didn't know that. Thank you.
Srimad Bhagavatam 3:13-42. O Lord, for the residential purposes of all inhabitants, both moving and non-moving, this earth is your wife, and you are the Supreme Father. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you, along with Mother Earth, in whom you have invested your own potency, just as an expert sacrificer puts fire in the Arani wood. Or is it Arani?
Arani.
Okay. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The conditioned souls who are residents of the material world are put in the womb of Mother Earth in the same way the seed of a child is put by the father in the womb of the mother. This conception of the Lord and the earth as father and mother is explained in Bhagavad Gita 14:4. Conditioned souls are devoted to the motherland in which they take their birth, but they do not know their father. The mother is not independent in producing children. Similarly, material nature cannot produce living creatures unless in contact with the Supreme Father. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srimad Bhagavatam, teaches us to offer obeisances unto the Mother along with the Father, the Supreme Lord, because it is the Father only who impregnates the Mother with all energies for the sustenance and maintenance of all living beings, both moving and non-moving. And
Comments?
what an amazing picture. I've never seen that one before.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. It's gorgeous, huh?
Yeah, it's bluish because we were reading, that when he appeared, he had a bluish tint, and I've never seen him like that before. So looks great.
And we have to, looking at that picture, you kind of forget the size of the earth. You think, oh, that's just a little ball sitting on, but it's the earth. Can you imagine how the form of the Lord is? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Any other? Thank you.
No.
Okay. Thank you, Gopa. And
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada always used to stress to us, if you want to know who your father is, you have to ask your mother, because the mother always knows who the father is. Anyway, just one thing. Manvantara,
Yes.
you want to continue? There. You are?
Yeah.
I thought, okay, well, thanks for saying that, because I thought you were in another town. But anyway, good. I'm glad you're here.
Text 43 through 44. Who else but you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, could deliver the earth from within the water? It is not very wonderful for you, however, because you acted most wonderfully in the creation of the universe. By your energy, you have created this wonderful cosmic manifestation. O Supreme Lord, undoubtedly, we are inhabitants of the most pious planets, the Jnana, Tapas, and Sathya lokas. But still, we have been purified by the drops of water sprinkled from your shoulder hairs by the shaking of your body. Purport. Ordinarily, the body of a hog is considered impure, but one should not consider that the hog incarnation assumed by the Lord is also impure. That form of the Lord is the personified Vedas and is transcendental. The inhabitants of the Jnana, Tapas, and Sathya lokas are the most pious persons in the material world. But because those planets are situated in the material world, there are so many material impurities there also. Therefore, when the drops of water from the tips of the Lord's shoulder hairs were sprinkled upon the bodies of the inhabitants of the higher planets, they felt purified. The Ganges water is pure because of its emanating from the toe of the Lord. And there is no difference between the water emanating from the toe and that from the tips of the hair of the shoulder of Lord Bor. They are both absolute and transcendental.
Okay, you have anything you'd like to illuminate us with, illuminate on this verse and purport?
Not very particularly, but in reading it, I was thinking of Lord Shiva, how he was thinking in another occasion that the froth coming from the cow's mouth was a contamination when the process of milk being purifying was so important. But you can see that everything is transcendental coming from Krishna.
Everything is transcendental coming from Krishna. Yeah, true. Thank you.
I have a question.
Please.
Do hogs sort of shake themselves like dogs do somehow or another, and the water comes flying off of them? I mean,
Yeah.
is that something?
Yeah, that's what like, you ever see the dogs on the beach when they come out, or in a lake and they shake and all their gunk goes everywhere? I think that's what it's referring to. And now, do you know the place where there is a place, that Hardwar, where some of the water from Lord Varaha's hair came and struck the earth? It's someplace. I'm asking if it's Hardwar. I'm not saying that it is, but it's one of the holy places of pilgrimage.
Yeah, I don't know, but generally speaking, when an animal does that, they shake all their hairs. You don't want to be around there. You just feel so contaminated. When the Lord Bor is doing it, it's a purifying experience.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see them in Vrindavan. They roll in the in the gutters, and then they come out and shake their body.
Hmm. And even though they're in Vrindavan, you still don't want to be too close to that. Anyway, thank you. I have a question, so this pastime happened in the background was Swayambhuva Manu, when he was given his instruction to Brahma to propagate, the universe. He said, well, where am I going to work? Because the earth has fallen into it. So are we has fallen into the Garbhodak ocean. So are we to understand that there were not people on the earth? Because I always wondered what happened. Did all the people drown, that were on the earth when it fell into the ocean? Or maybe it was before it was populated. Do you have anyone have any understanding of that? Okay. All right. Well, see if it comes. Sometimes the answers always come up in like a next verse or next thing. But if it does, if anyone comes across an answer like that, let me know. So our next reader is Eon.
I thought, just to interrupt, I thought Dhruva Maharaj Prabhu said last Saturday that the earth was not populated yet.
No, this particular conversation is taking place between Brahma and Swayambhuva Manu, but it's really not clear how much population had been produced at that time. It sounds like there's certainly not much, if anyone.
Yeah.
One other point, I'm going to switch back over to the text because there was one point here that didn't get mentioned. Oops. This point here, who else but you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, could deliver the earth from within the water? You may remember that when Manu said, what should I do about this particular planet? Brahma was contemplating. He really didn't have a solution at the time. And it just brings it back to the concept of who is the supreme controller, who is the supreme creator, even amongst these great beings.
Yeah, thank you.
Just found that interesting.
Very interesting. Thank you. Thanks for emphasizing that. Okay, our next reader is Eon, if you're available. I see you there on the screen, but can you communicate with us, Eon? Oh, Haribol. And you definitely have to tell us where you are, because you were the reason that I asked everybody where they were, because I wanted to know where you were.
Okay, in terms of place, I'm in Jamaica.
I can't hear you. That was too mumbly.
He is
I am in Jamaica.
Jamaica. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, here's your verses 13 to 45. Thank you.
Okay. Oh Lord, there is no limit to your wonderful activities. Anyone who desires to know the limit of your activities is certainly nonsensical. Everyone in this world is conditioned by powerful mystic potencies. Please bestow your causeless mercy upon these conditioned souls. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Krishna Samashtam is very significant here. There are the material world and the spiritual world. The sages pray. Both worlds are bewildered by your different energies. Those who are in the spiritual world are absorbed in your loving service, forgetting themselves and you also. And those in the material world are absorbed in material sense gratification and therefore also forget you. No one can know you because you are unlimited. It's best not to try to know you by unnecessary mental speculation. Rather, kindly bless our soul that we can worship you with causeless devotion and service.
And comments or
Yes, that's a comment. Yes. It's those who are in the spiritual world are absorbing your loving service, forgetting themselves and you also. And those in the material world are absorbing material sense gratification and therefore also forget you. So for instance, in the Vrindavan pastimes, the inhabitants don't know, don't think of Krishna as the Supreme Lord. You know, they think of, well, he's worshipable, but they don't worship as God, so to speak. And those of us in the material world, we through sense gratification, we forget him also.
that's an interesting point, isn't it? that actually to remember the Supreme Lord is the goal of our life. But the residents of Vrindavan are so elevated that they're not even thinking of Krishna as the Supreme Lord. They're thinking of him as their most dear friend or their lover or whatever, even beyond that concept of God. It's interesting. Thank you. Drew Prabhu, any comments or anything we missed that you'd like to emphasize?
No, not on this one.
Okay, so we'll go back up to Jai Shri. You're next. We'll come around again.
Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam 3:13, 46 and 47. The sage Maitreya said, the Lord, being thus worshipped by all the great sages and transcendentalists, touched the earth with his hooves and placed it on the water. In this manner, the personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the maintainer of all living entities, raised the earth from within the water, and having placed it afloat on the water, he returned to his own abode. Purport. The Lord is all powerful, and therefore he can sustain the huge planets either on the water or in the air as he likes. The tiny human brain cannot conceive how these potencies of the Lord can act. Man can give some vague explanation of the laws by which such phenomena are made possible, but actually the tiny human brain is unable to conceive of the activities of the Lord, which are therefore inconceivable. Yet the frog philosophers still try to give some imaginary explanation. The personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, descends by his will to the material planets in his innumerable incarnations for particular purposes, and again he goes back to his own abode. When he descends, he is called an avatar, because avatar means one who descends. Neither the Lord himself nor his specific devotees who come to this earth are ordinary living entities like us.
So there's a couple of really important points in that purport. Did you catch them, Jai Shri? Would you like to remind us what those important points is, especially in that first paragraph?
About our tiny human brain and how we can't conceive the potencies of the Lord.
Yeah.
And the frog philosophy, of course, the frog in the well, just can't conceive it because he can't see it and can't, he's just stuck in his little space, this little area that's all he knows. So he can't understand anymore. One question I had was why did he put the earth on the water? Is that where it's supposed to be? It's not floating, or isn't it floating in the air?
I also had that question. Does anybody know?
He must have, I don't know the answer, but he must have, when he put it on the water, he must have also gave it the ability to float like Lord Rocks, or else it would have went back down again.
But isn't this planet generally in air all the way around it, or is it always floating on the water?
Good question.
We're going to let Seisha answer that.
The ocean that he set it on is the Garbadak Ocean at the bottom of the universe, correct? And
yes.
Lord Vishnu is lying on there, and the lotus stem comes from his navel and goes up. At least that's how it's depicted in the paintings. So it would seem to me, as everyone here kind of thought, that it's in the air or in the stem, it's in a lotus stem or something, not on the surface of the ocean.
Mm.
Maybe this is a temporary circumstance and it will be described later on, another placement or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the Lord's appearance here seems so brief. He comes and he flies in the sky, and he dives in the ocean, he rescues the earth, and then he goes. It seems like the devotees, the demigods who are praying, would want him to stay around a little bit of time, but he leaves quickly.
Well,
And he
there,
killed Hiranyaksha too.
yeah. Well, that then in our 14th chapter, when we get to it very soon, it talks about the second appearance of Lord Varaha. But you know, we're getting a summary of the story here, and we're getting one verse and the next verse, and we think that it happened, you know, 5 seconds after the previous incident, but really it's the time, you know, he probably was here for a while. Okay, here's a question for you.
I think it's because they put him down on the water so he could fight with
That's
Hiranyaksha
yeah.
No,
temporarily.
Had the
no,
earth
no,
on
no, no.
us
No,
went off.
Whoever doesn't like that.
No, what's being described now, until a few verses coming up. Do you remember that we had this discussion the last week or the week before, that the Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and Rupa Goswami have all talked about how there are two incarnations. One during the Swayambhuva incarnation, that was the white one. And this conversation between Manu and Brahma is taking place when Manu is first being told to populate. So Hiranyaksha has not been born yet. But they also point out that in his narration, Maitreya merges the two combinations of pastimes into one, which we'll come up to in the next few verses. He all of a sudden kind of switches to include the Lord killing the demon. And then in the beginning of the next chapter, Vidura will ask him to elaborate. So it's kind of hard to discern which pastime is being exactly narrated. But so far, we're in the Sveta Varaha pastime where where Hiranyaksha is not manifest yet. As far as I know, maybe the next verse will contradict that. I can't remember.
Well, then that brings up another question. Then Hiranyaksha hasn't manifested and he hasn't been drilling the earth to get the oil out. Then why did this earth fall? That's my question.
Good point. And it appears to be something that happens every day, because we know that there are regular pastimes like this. The Lord Boar is a scheduled incarnation in a day of Brahma. I don't think he always appears twice. The one with Hiranyaksha was a unique experience. But somehow or another, at the beginning of creation, and Srila Prabhupada explained in that purport that I put in the overview that I send out every week, and in the 3rd chapter of the 1st canto, Scheduled Incarnations, he describes that every incarnation of the Lord has a specific function. And in this incarnation of the boar, the specific function is to go down into the ocean, into the mire, into the muck, and pick the earth up from it. So somehow or another, without clarity, it falls periodically out of orbit. Another point is that he does stay for some time, because we learn from another Purana. Sometimes one Purana will just describe in review or overview a particular pastime. Here that's a little more expanded, but in the Adi Varaha Purana, one of the other 17 Puranas, Lord Varaha actually goes to Vishram God in Mathura after he's taken part and put the earth back where it's supposed to be, sits with Mother Bhumi, that's where that painting came from, and actually impregnates her with the child and speaks the whole Adi Varaha Purana, which is an entire Purana spoken by him. So he does spend time.
And who is that child?
Go ahead.
He's mentioned in Krishna book. If you remember in Krishna book, in the story of, is it Bhaumasura? Because I always get the difference between Banasura and Bhaumasura.
Yeah,
I think it's Bhaumasura. And that he was the offspring, but because he had bad association, he became demoniac. And Prabhupada makes a 1 or 2 sentence comment about how important association is. And that's why in the pastime of when the Lord, he took Satyabhama with him to fly over to Prajotishapura, which was the capital of Bhaumasura. He took Satyabhama because she's the representative of the earth.
Right.
And he couldn't kill Bhaumasura without his mother's permission. It's so
Very nice. It is. I think also I looked up, because there's the 2 Manus where there's a manifestation of Varaha. One is Swayambhuva Manu. We know he's the first. So I looked up the list of manus to find out where the Chakshusha manu is. And therefore we can find out how old Hiranyaksha was when that happened. It's the one before Vaivasvata Manu, which is what we're in now, when Krishna appeared. So he wasn't like millions and millions and millions of years old by earth times. He appeared in the Manu prior to the one where Krishna appeared, because he's the offspring of Varaha and Bhumi.
You got me confused on that one, but I'll just accept it and hopefully it'll go in my head one day.
Chakshusha Manu, then Vaivasvata Manu.
Uh-huh.
Krishna appeared on earth because he's going to
Okay. Mm-hmm.
with Satyabhama and coming across this demon. When did that demon appear? How long has he been around?
Okay.
Chakshusha Manu, the Manu before.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
Who's next, Tisha? I forget. Who?
Wait, you were gonna get a third thing out of that paragraph, out of that reading.
I was gonna in the second paragraph, but could you put that screen up, the last one that Jayashree read? Thank you. Yeah.
This one?
No,
That's this one.
this one, yeah. Okay, that bottom paragraph also. Just the point. Okay, the point about Avatar, that he's descending, that he's not part of this material world, that he's, pure. He's coming down to give us his association. I already forgot my point that I was going to make, but that was it. But that point in the first paragraph is very important, that the Lord is inconceivable. Srila Jiva Goswami says, if the very basic understanding that we have to have, our beginning understanding, is that we can't understand the Lord with our tiny brain. And if we think we can understand, if we want to try to understand the Lord with our tiny brain, we'll never understand the Lord. We have to accept the achintya shakti, the inconceivable potency of the Lord. Okay.
I think it was Sesha, wasn't it?
Sesha, the next reader?
I think he was after Jayashree.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for your help. Yes, Sesha Prabhu, your turn.
Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 13, 48 through 50. If one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude this auspicious narration of Lord Bor, which is worthy of description, the Lord, who is within the heart of everyone, is very pleased. Nothing really remains unachieved when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with someone. By transcendental achievement, one understands everything else to be insignificant. One who engages in transcendental loving service is elevated to the highest perfectional stage by the Lord himself, who is seated in everyone's heart. Who, other than one who is not a human being, can exist in this world and not be interested in the ultimate goal of life? Who can refuse the nectar of narrations about the personality of Godhead's activities, which by itself can deliver one from all material pangs?
There's quite a long purport. There's 2 more slides for that. So maybe we can share different readers and then have discussion.
Sure. So the next reader would be Vaishnavi. Are you available, Vaishnavi?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay.
So, purport. In his various incarnations, the Lord appears, acts, and leaves behind him a narrative history which is as transcendental as he himself. Every one of us is fond of hearing some wonderful narration, but most stories are neither auspicious nor worth hearing because they are of the inferior quality of the material nature. Every living entity is of superior quality, spirit soul, and nothing material can be auspicious for him. Intelligent persons should therefore hear personally the cause others to cause others to hear the descriptive narrations of the Lord's activities, for that will destroy the pangs of material existence. It is confirmed herein that a pure devotee who constantly engages in the loving service of the Lord is awarded all knowledge necessary to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For such a devotee, there is nothing valuable to be achieved but the Lord's service. If one serves faithfully, there is no possibility of frustration because the Lord Himself takes charge of the devotee's advancement. The Lord is seated in everyone's heart and He knows the devotee's motive and arranges everything achievable. In other words, the pseudo devotee who is anxious to achieve material gains cannot attain the highest perfectional stage because the Lord is in knowledge of his motive. One merely has to become sincere in his purpose, and then the Lord is there to help in every way.
Wow.
There's
beautiful.
still one more slide, Nanda. I'm
Yeah.
thinking rather than losing our
Sure.
connection with the theme, let's read one more.
Okay, sure. Tisha, you're up next.
Okay, thank you. Purport continued. The narration of the activities of the personality of Godhead is like a constant flow of nectar. No one can refuse to drink such nectar except one who is not a human being. Devotional service to the Lord is the highest goal of life for every human being. And such devotional service begins by hearing about the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. Only an animal or a man who is almost an animal in behavior can refuse to take an interest in hearing the transcendental message of the Lord. There are many books of stories and histories in the world, but except for the histories or narrations on the topics of the personality of Godhead, none are capable of diminishing the burden of material pangs. Therefore, one who is serious about eliminating material existence must chant and hear of the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. Otherwise, one must be compared to the non-humans.
Wow. Cool. Fantastic purport. So Prabhu, Dhruva Prabhu, how do you want to go back to the first slide?
Yes, that's what I was thinking, and then we'll go through it steadily.
Okay, Sesha Prabhu, would you like to comment on what you were reading and including any other comments pertaining to this point?
Yeah, well, what struck me was the description in the first purport paragraph, where it describes the narrations, mundane narrations. I guess we all have painful experience of mundane narrations not being able to satisfy us. Yet somehow or another, due to our causeless unwillingness to surrender to Krishna, we just get stuck in an unlimited cycle of trashy material stories and that are described here as neither auspicious nor worth hearing because they are of the inferior quality of material nature. So we can look at the two things right in front of us. Material narrations and spiritual narrations. Hopefully we'll find shelter in the spiritual narrations and reject the material narrations.
Nice. And what comes to mind just by your comment was the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Pram Dristva Nivartate. If we get that higher taste by hearing those transcendental narrations, then gradually, the taste that we all have, for mundane news diminishes, but by cultivating that taste. Other comments from other readers who were reading there? Tisha or Vaishnavi? You want to be first? Do you have any other comments or points you'd like to bring up?
No, nothing.
I'm sure you have a lot, but we'll let you pass slightly just on that one. And for those of you that don't know Vaishnavi's in Alachua too. Okay. So Tisha, how about you? What are your thoughts and realizations? You had also a very beautiful part of the purport.
Yeah. For me, I just love how Srila Prabhupada always reminds you that if you worship Krishna and you chant the Maha Mantra, then you're going to get the knowledge and the benefit. So in the paragraph before this last one, the way he says it, it's just encouraging. The Lord is seated in wherever it says where just it is confirmed herein that a pure devotee who constantly engages in the loving service of the Lord is awarded all knowledge necessary. I'm a person who needs a lot of encouragement and enthusiasm to keep going. And so Prabhupada delivers on that.
Yeah. You know, one thing, because all of us need encouragement, because from where we're at to where we want to go, we can't really measure the distance with a ruler, that's for sure. You know, it's a far thing. So you might want to, just a suggestion that personally I don't follow myself, but I'm good at giving suggestions, but to write down these encouraging statements of Prabhupada so that when we are discouraged or are feeling like hopeless or whatever, we can read these things and it kind of just brings you back to life again. Any other comments from the other devotees? Or if you'd like to continue on by time-wise, we can do that. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Chaita and Mantara afterwards. Okay, Chaita.
Text 50, this wonderful, describes that there are many books of stories and histories in the world, but except for the histories on topics of the personality of Godhead, none are capable of diminishing the burden of material pangs.
Yeah.
And my gosh, our culture is so much based now, not so much on reading, but on going to movies. And people spend so much time going to movies and do they ever come out of it satisfied?
No.
It's so sad.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. Manvantara, you had a comment or question?
I just wanted to comment on the fact that Lord Boar is in the form, Lord Sri Krishna is in the form of a boar. And then at the very last text 50, Prabhupada was making this analogy between non-humans, like materialists who think Krishna being in the form of a boar is less of a personality than what he is, transcendental personality than he is. And it was just like the play on the humans being non-humans. I just thought that was
interesting.
That's great.
I hadn't noticed that you put it out. Thank you. Thanks. Seisha likes it too. Thank you. Very good. Yeah, there's a lot there in Prabhupada's purports. That's why it's so nice to read in groups, because something that somebody catches, the other person doesn't catch or can add something. It's nice. Thank you. Okay, so we can continue on unless we can go on to chapter 14. We have a few verses in 14 to cover. Aha, interesting topic. Pregnancy of Diti in the evening. Chaita, you're the one who's the reader for this chapter 14.
Hari Hari. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:14-2. Sri Vidura said, O chief amongst the great sages, I have heard by disciplic succession that Hiranyaksha, the original demon, was slain by the same form of sacrifices, the personality of Godhead, Lord Boar. Srila Prabhupada's purport, as referred to previously, the boar incarnation was manifested in 2 millenniums, namely Svayambhuva and Chakshusha. In both millenniums, there was a boar incarnation of the Lord, but in the Svayambhuva millennium, he lifted the earth from within the water of the universe. Whereas in the Chakshusha millennium, he killed the first demon, Hiranyaksha. In the Svayambhuva millennium, he assumed the color white, and in the Chakshusha millennium, he assumed the color red. Vidura had already heard about one of them, and he proposed to hear about the other. The 2 different boar incarnations described are the one supreme personality of Godhead. So he assumes these forms for different reasons. but it's the same form, and it has the same form is multitasking.
Hare Krishna, the original multitasker.
Yeah.
Krishna's the
Well,
source of everything.
And I did have a question here about Hiranyaksha being designated as the first demon. That was a surprise. So we've heard of so many demons in the Krishna book, and here he is, the first one. And
Yeah.
wow.
And we're about to understand, we're about to, that now this whole chapter is going to tell us how he was, born and why he was under the circumstances that he was. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Just about the scheduled incarnations. What does it mean in regard to these appearances of Lord Boar? Are they scheduled incarnations, or do the scheduled incarnations have something specific they do each time? I just need a little clarity on that.
Dhruva, he would love to clarify that, I'm sure.
Well, I found that what I did was I looked up the specific purport in chapter 3 of the first canto, which described Lord Boar. And in that purport, Srila Prabhupada said every incarnation has a specific function. And the Lord took the form of a boar to fulfill that function. So in that purport, he actually describes, yes, according to time, place, and circumstance of what's going on in the universe at that time, the Lord will appear in a particular form which fulfills the necessity and can use that form, just like the Mantara mountain when it was on the Lord Tortoise, or like Lord Nrsingadev when he appeared out of the pillar, because of the benedictions of Brahma to Hiranyakasipu, he appeared in a specific form according to that time, place, and circumstance. And apparently, according to the Vedas, all these different forms have eternal abodes in Vaikuntha, and they descend onto earth to perform their pastimes in a regulated fashion. Gaura Govinda Maharaj has written a real nice book called The Embankment of Separation. And in that book, he describes how what happens, according to this theme of rasa, is that as the Lord appears first as Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Nrsimha, Vamana, you notice that they're animal forms, fish form, tortoise form. There's no relationship really with parents or servants. There's no rasa which really develops in them. But then when he appears as Vamana, he's the son of Kasyapa and Diti. And then, there's, what is there after Vamana? Then there's Ram, Parasaram, and the rasa, the increasing desire of the Lord is there until finally he appears as Krishna and he performs his full-fledged rasa lila with his most intimate associates, exhibiting Madurya rasa to the residents of this world. And then he comes after as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is like Mahabhava personified. So it's a beautiful description how these scheduled incarnations actually have another internal meaning for the Lord himself and his associates.
Nice.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Anything, other comments? We'll go on. Madurya Leela, you're the next reader.
Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam 3:14, 3-6. What was the reason, O Brahmana, for the fight between the demon king and Lord Boar, while the Lord was lifting the earth as his pastime? My mind has become very inquisitive, and therefore I am not satisfied with hearing the narration of the Lord's appearance. Please therefore speak more and more to a devotee who is faithful. The great sage Maitreya answered, O warrior, the inquiry made by you is just befitting a devotee because it concerns the incarnation of the personality of Godhead. He is the source of liberation from the chain of birth and death for all liberation, for all those who are otherwise destined to die. By hearing these topics from the sage, Narada, the son of King Uttanapad, Dhruva was enlightened regarding the personality of Godhead, and he descended to the abode of the Lord, placing his feet over the head of death.
He ascended. He went up, not deep.
He ascended. Yeah, he ascended.
Thank you.
To the Lord.
Okay. Do you have a comment or a realization or anything you'd like to share?
Not, yeah.
Okay.
Not really.
Okay. We'll continue on then. Gopapatni, it's your turn again.
Srimad Bhagavatam 3:14, 7 through 9. This history of the fight between the Lord as a boar and the demon Hiranyaksha was heard by me in a year long ago, as it was described by the foremost of the demigods, Brahma, when he was questioned by the other demigods. Diti, daughter of Daksha, being afflicted with sex desire, begged her husband Kasyapa, the son of Marishi, to have intercourse with her in the evening in order to beget a child. The sun was setting and the sage was sitting in trance after offering oblations to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, whose tongue is the sacrificial fire.
Let's skip comments until we read a little bit in the purports here. So Ian, are you up for reading again? There you go.
Okay.
Very good.
So in that place, 3:14.7, 10 to 12. In that place, the beautiful deity expressed a desire. O learned one, Cupid is taking arrows and distressing me forcibly, but the mother elephant struggles a banana tree. Therefore, you should be kind towards me by showing me complete mercy. I desire to have sons, and I am much distressed by seeing the opulence of my co-wives. By performing this act, you will become happy. A woman is honored in the world by the benediction of her husband, and a husband like you will become famous by having children, because you are meant for the expansion of living entities. Fourth, in Bhagavad Gita, sexual intercourse for the begetting children is accepted as righteous. A person sexually inclined for simple sense gratification, however, is unrighteous. In Diti's appeal to her husband for sex, it was not exactly that she was afflicted by sex desires, but she desired sons. Since she had no sons, she felt poorer than her co-wives. Therefore, Kashyap was supposed to satisfy his bona fide wife. According to Rashab, one should not become a father or mother unless one is confident that he can beget children whom he can deliver from the clutches of birth and death. Human life is the only opportunity to get out of the material scene, which is full of the miseries of birth, death, old age, and diseases. Every human being should be given the opportunity to take advantage of his human form of life. And a father like Kashyap is supposed to beget good children for the purpose of liberation.
Thank you, Ian. Would you like to make any comments? Anything that, any realizations or things that struck you about this very interesting verse and purport, verses and purports?
Yeah, okay. Okay, the aspect where Cupid is taking his arrows in the first one there. Cupid is taking the arrows and distressing me forcibly as the mad elephant troubles the banana tree. So you see the pregnant Cupid there. And the last one, a woman is honored in the world by the benediction of her husband. And the husband like you will become famous by having children because you are meant for the expansion of the entities. So it's kind of giving in some insight why he should engage there. And also, Deity's appeal to her husband for sex, it was not exactly that she was afflicted by sex desires, but she desired sons. In the past time, there are many wives. There are the one with Chitaketu, when he had so many wives, and one wife that had a son, a co-wives for his son because he had neglected them. And the Ram Leela, when you had, 3 wives and they had the rivalry between the wives, and the sons.
Mhm.
Yeah. So important here that she never just, it was a desire for sex, but she desired sons because she was saying she has no sons, she felt poorer than her wives.
Yeah, that struck me too. I found that also very interesting. I thought that was very interesting, and it was very nice of Prabhupada to point that out, because oftentimes we just hear the negative side, the woman bashing side. So thank you. Any other comments or Jayashree, is that a question or a comment?
Yeah. So I wonder this sometimes with a part where, according to Rishabdev, one should not become a father or mother unless one is confident that he can beget children whom he can deliver from the clutches of birth and death. So what happens if things go wrong there? It's, like you do your best, trying to get your children, be Krishna conscious, but they have their own path, I guess, that they have to choose.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
does that affect us spiritually because we didn't do what we were supposed to do?
That's a great question. I'm sure it's in the mind of lots of parents that make their endeavor and don't necessarily see the fruit of the endeavor fructify in front of their eyes. But we do have to remember that it's not a question of immediate fructification either. All that endeavor, all that playing that those boys did in Vrindavan, in Raman Reti dust, and et cetera, and all the other things that they've done and accumulated and heard, and all of them, it's there permanently. Even Prabhupada would mention sometimes on the Vyasa-san, he would see a small toddler paying his obeisance. He said, this is marked. That it looks like an innocent activity, but it's marked for their eternal benefit. So sometimes the fructification comes later than one would expect, because we're always pressed by that time factor, thinking, I want the results now for me and for my children also. But other comments or thoughts on this from others? Because I'm sure. Yeah, Chaitya.
That was great, Nanda.
Yeah.
That helps me to put it in perspective, because that is very, the concern is real about, but we don't have our perspective of the long term.
Right.
And as a parent, you plant the seeds and that's it. But you explained it really well. Thank you so much.
And actually, just when you were talking, Chaitya, then I remember the example that we already talked about today was Lord Varaha's union with Mother Earth. In this case, Bhaumasura, I can't remember if that was always his name, but anyway, whatever. It appeared that even the Lord had a wayward son. Of course, he has millions of wayward sons, but at least a directly wayward son. But ultimately, getting killed by the Lord, he's, put back in his original position. But Dhruva Prabhu?
Yeah, just to help with the name, Bhoma means earth. Bhaumasura, and his name's also Narakasura.
Narakasura,
same person.
Yeah.
Excellent point, Nanda, about the time frame. One of the things that Jayashree mentioned just in her presentation was, what about the parents and their feeling, their inability to carry out their duties? Is there some sort of negative element to that in their spiritual advancement? I was thinking, just like you said with Narakasura, of Advaitacharya. He had 6 children, but it's described that 3 were good and 3 were bad. And that's Advaitacharya. Srila Prabhupada had several children, and not all of them became super nice Vaishnavas. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a big family. Not all of them became stalwart devotees. But the idea that you're presenting is that opportunity is being offered by the parents as their duty, and then naturally the child benefits from that. So therefore, the act is a performance of sacrifice, in the sense that that's why they're doing it, having children to help them advance. That's the purpose.
Nice point. And then that other point too is that Prabhupada says, and that's why we name our children Govinda Das, Krishna Das, so that at least we're saying transcendental names all the time. Stop doing that, you Krishna Das. Anyway. All right. Hare Krishna. We have a few more verses, correct? Or are we
Yes.
finished? Okay. And Jayashree, did you just read, Jayashree? You just asked a question. It's your turn to read then.
No, I had just asked a question.
Okay.
Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam 3, 14, 7, 13, and 15, I think. In days long ago, our father, the most opulent Daksha, who was affectionate to his daughters, asked each of us separately whom we would prefer to select as our husband. Our well-wishing father, Daksha, after knowing our intentions, handed over 13 of his daughters unto you, and since then we have all been faithful. O lotus-eyed one, kindly bless me by fulfilling my desire. When someone in distress approaches a great person, his pleas should never go in vain.
Yeah. Do you want to read the purport, Jayashree?
Sure. Purport. Generally, the daughters were too shy to express their opinions before their father, but the father would accept the daughter's intentions through someone else, such as a grandmother, to whom the grandchildren had free access. King Daksha collected the opinions of his daughters and thus handed over 13 to Kasyapa. Every one of Diti's sisters was a mother of children. Therefore, since she was equally faithful to the same husband, why should she remain without children? Diti knew well that her request might be rejected because of this untimely situation, but she pleaded that when there is an emergency or a distressful condition, there is no consideration of time or situation.
You have any thoughts on that?
I guess I can understand her situation and wanting children, but and that understanding it was untimely. I don't know. I guess in one sense you think you might have to face some consequences since it was untimely, but I guess
what
you can
about
always see. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm wondering about the culture that we live in today compared to the culture in a Vedic age. The whole idea is to produce good progeny, and this whole pastime that we're coming into describes the dire, disastrous results of when progeny isn't produced properly. And there's a whole culture of how boys and girls or men and women or males and females get together in order to produce good progeny, and all these different features and factors of this pastime will reveal all that. But in Kali Yuga, so many of them could be considered irrelevant from some points of view. What do some of you all think of all of this and its practical application?
Yeah.
We're really far from Vedic culture, isn't it sad? And when you see how thoughtfully and thoroughly everything is organized for gradual advancement, and then you just see how we're like 359 degrees opposite that, in this Kali Yuga. It's amazing. But other people, or Chaitya, or Seisha, we'll go ahead.
Just again, as we said at the beginning, chanting the holy name is the real savior here.
Nice.
And we can see how that has been transferred. Most of the youth today, like from our generation producing children, if there's one thing that attracts them and holds them and brings them together, it's chanting the holy name.
True.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and in that sense, the transmission has been successful.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Chaitya?
I just wanted to echo Shesha's remark that we really need divine intervention. And for those of us who don't chant, then mercy is the only thing that will keep us afloat.
Okay. We have one more set of verses. Is that correct?
No, that's it.
Oh, and so any other comments, or how about you, Dhruva Maharaj Prabhu? You?
No, so what I do is I read it, I put it online, I put together the Zooms, and then I do it again with the Zooms. So every time it's more and more enlivening, especially in the association of such nice devotees. It's so enthusing to read it and hear it and absorb it. We were talking earlier about the mundane activities and attraction to those mundane narrations and how they're useless, but these ones, it actually takes cultivation. That's where sacrifice comes in, to surrender, to give our attention to these narrations is an act which we hope will please the Lord, and in reciprocation, he makes it more and more relishable.
Nice, thank you.
And I do want to remind everybody to please sign up for May, so
Yeah.
that you're on the mailing list.
Yeah.
Please offer our well wishes to Samapriya.
Yes.
And
Is she
with her
still on, Sama?
ailments.
Are you still there? Can you hear us? Okay, she said
Hare
yes. through the
Krishna,
door.
everyone. I heard everything.
Jai.
You know, I almost couldn't contain myself at one point to participate, but I'm practicing. Anyway, I need to rest, but I really feel grateful to have your association. Thank you very much.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Let's all chant Hare Krishna one time for her.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai. So
Thank
sweet.
you. Thank you all very much. I hope to appear again next week with great enthusiasm.
Jai.
Love you all. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Nanda.
Jai was
Jai,
a
Tisha.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Great
Vaishnavi.
job, Nanda.
Thank you,
Vanchiko.
Nanda,
Yeah.
and also thank you, Tisha, who was in the background.
He was in the background.
Helping
Did a
to
great
And
job.
as always, Vaishnavi.
Yes.
And
too.
Vaishnavi. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Vanchakopatu Bhishta, Kripa Sindhu Bhivata, Patitanam Pavani, Vaishnavi. Jai. Hari Bol.
Hey, Prabhupada.
Leave.